So in this video, I'm gonna help you decide if you should live in Midtown East or not. Now, I always say picking the neighborhood you're gonna live in is such a personal decision. So as a real estate agent, I actually believe that sometimes picking the neighborhood that you're going to live in is even more important than the actual apartment that you're gonna live in. Your neighborhood can make or break your experience in New York City. So with that, there's a couple things that you're gonna wanna consider in Midtown East. Now, overall, there's gonna be a lot of different types of homes that you can pick from in Midtown East. So I do have to say that I think that compared to some other neighborhoods, you can find a decent priced apartment for Manhattan, decent priced, in this neighborhood when you compare square footage to other apartments in some other neighborhoods as well. Now, why is that? There are a couple things that people don't like about Midtown East. First thing is that there tends to be commuter traffic in this neighborhood. Now, this is going to be a lot less than it used to be pre-pandemic, but it's always going to be a commuter-based neighborhood because so many people are going to be coming out of Grand Central or coming out of the subways and working in this neighborhood. That's probably not going to change anytime soon because there are just so many corporate offices around here. So that might not actually affect you that much depending on which street you live on, but it can affect you just because there's so many people walking in and out of this neighborhood at all times. But whenever there's a lot of commuter traffic, the good thing is that there's great public transportation also in that neighborhood. So you're never gonna have an issue getting to another neighborhood from Midtown East because there's so many transportation options. You can get so many express and local trains literally from the neighborhood. So because there are so many corporations here and so many people working here, it doesn't exactly have the neighborhood vibe that so many other neighborhoods have in New York City. It definitely feels a little bit more corporate and sterile at times, especially depending on where you live, just because you have so many people in the neighborhood coming in and out each day that don't live there. And like I said, there are so many other neighborhoods in New York City where that's definitely not the case. But at the same time, because of all that, this can also be reflected in the prices here in Midtown East. It's not as competitive as some other neighborhoods that definitely feel a little bit more residential because there are less people fighting for the apartments in Midtown East. Now, Midtown East is also part of the waterfront, so depending on where you live, you can easily walk to the waterfront on the east side, which if you guys watch any of my videos, you probably know at this point that I love waterfront neighborhoods. I'm not the type of person who likes to be landlocked in New York City just because I think that sometimes it's just so nice to be able to walk to the waterfront and feel like you're almost like getting out of the city for a little bit. So I think that this is such a big pro, it's not even funny. But at the same time, some people just don't care about this that much, but you do have that perk when you live in Midtown East. Now, there are also some really good bars and restaurants in Midtown East, and I swear every week new ones are popping up here in the neighborhood. But at the same time, just like the neighborhood doesn't have a neighborhood feel per se, I would say that the bars and restaurants don't either, just because at the same time there are so many people who are working in Midtown East or traveling in for business, and they're kind of doing corporate business type of meetings at these restaurants. So it doesn't have that like fine dining neighborhood vibe. However, you can find lots of fine dining and really cool cocktail bars here in this part of New York City. So overall, who would I suggest Midtown East for and who wouldn't I suggest it for? So if you're the type of person who likes to be near public transportation and doesn't really care about that neighborhood vibe, then I think Midtown East could be a really great fit for you because like I said, you can find really good apartments in this neighborhood that aren't as pricey compared to some other neighborhoods. If you are the person who also doesn't care about nightlife at all, but you do appreciate fine dining, then this is going to be a great neighborhood for you. Definitely not a nightlife neighborhood for sure. There really isn't any of that there. There are bars and restaurants that stay open at night, but it's not going to be your going out scene at all. Now, if you do care about that, I would 100% suggest a different neighborhood. So if you do care about nightlife, I definitely would suggest downtown. And I'll explain more of that in other videos, but if you do like nightlife and you want to be right on top of the nightlife, Midtown East is not going to be for you. But if you do like fine dining and you don't really care about neighborhood vibe or really understand what I'm talking about when I say that, then you're going to love Midtown East. Now, if you definitely want to feel like you live in a community and you don't really like to be around crowds and commuters and things like that, then you're probably not going to love Midtown East or Midtown West for that matter. You're probably just not going to love Midtown at all. And I would suggest somewhere else in the city, uptown or downtown, because you are going to get some crowds there because there's just so many people coming in and out of the city in this area. Now, on a side note, for this type of person, you can find some off streets in Midtown East that will still provide you with a little bit of quiet. However, when you step into the main area of Midtown East, you're still going to get all those crowds and those people. So just keep in mind that even if your street tends to be a little bit more quieter, you might have to frequent other streets that aren't. So they're all things to keep in mind. And like I said, it's kind of hard to know if a neighborhood is right for a certain person unless I really know exactly what that person values, what they like to do, and what's important to them. So these are all questions I typically ask when working with someone because, like I said, the neighborhood is so important because I have seen people choose the wrong neighborhood in New York City and it really just kind of ruined their experience. But then when they eventually went to a different neighborhood, they loved New York City and couldn't believe that they didn't like it in one neighborhood versus another. So that's why I think that choosing your neighborhood is so important. Now, I would love if you guys could share your experiences about living in Midtown East, or if you would ever even live in Midtown East, because I think that your feedback and your stories will help so many people in the comments. So as always, I love hearing from you guys.